Hey everybody, and welcome to another tier list video. And we're going to be ranking the Separatist faction today. It's been a while since I did a tier list, so I wanted to get back to one. And just as a note, I am recording this over a week before it comes out, so hopefully nothing changed much with the Separatist faction between when I'm recording this and when it comes out, but it hasn't changed in a while, so I feel like there's low risk. But I'm going to be going through them alphabetically and ranking them in tiers only within the faction. So it's not like journey guide level, marquee level, it's just within the faction, what is the best. And I do have kind of an overall thought of what's actually good in the game. So if there's nothing really bad, there won't be really bad characters in D or F tier. If there aren't really good characters, there won't be any in S or A. But starting with Admiral Trench, and this might surprise people right away, but I'm putting him in the lower S tier, and this is just for the Separatist faction. That's why I wanted to emphasize that so much. So people like to make fun of Trench, and I personally don't get too much use out of him, but that's just because I'm not willing to apply the Omicron. When you apply the Omicron in TW, he gets really good. He can take out Ray teams, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if there's other Galactic Legends, but just being able to beat a Galactic Legend team is no small feat. And when you give him his best team, he is pretty decent in Grand Arena as well. I still see him sit on defense at higher levels, and I do need to take in something strong. Without him, the team is not very intimidating, like a Newt Separatist team or Count Dooku. They just don't have much, so he does have quite a lot, so I give him S tier. Next up, we got Asajj Ventress, and she just doesn't have much to offer. It's hard to evaluate her because she is almost never used as a Separatist. She's used primarily as a Night Sister, sometimes as an online Force user even, but she doesn't really fit well into a Separatist team. And I'm just kind of underwhelmed by her as a character altogether. In GAC, she does have an Omicron. I don't have it. I don't have much experience with it. I don't see it much on defense. I know the Baron Omicron is more important, so I just gave her a C. Next up, we got B1 Battle Droid, who is towards the bottom of B tier, but that doesn't mean he's not good. The B tier is kind of crowded, as you can tell by him being further on the right. But he's a really strong support character for a General Grievous team. Gives lots of extra offense up to the team, or crit avoidance offense to himself. Is one of the only characters that can take 1,000,000 damage and only lose a little bit of health. That's a really unique and cool aspect to his kit. Just constantly assisting constant damage, and a great counter to heavy hitting teams like Qui-Gon in like 3v3 if you set it up right. Next we got B2, and he's a little bit ahead of his friend B1 just because of his plug and play viability. He fits great into an Aphra team. He's amazing on a General Grievous team. Constantly getting turns as long as he's not dazed or anything, and dispelling all the buffs is really valuable to have. And it can happen at any moment if your allies are getting hit. And he really gets the ball rolling on the General Grievous team, getting a target lock if he uses basic, but that buff immunity is where he shines in the Terminator game. Next up, we got Count Dooku, and he is at the top of the C tier. Kind of sad he's the leader of the Separatist movement, but he is a little bit low for me. What's good about him are his stuns, but honestly, I find very little use for him outside of a Trench team, which I don't really use too much. But he is kind of annoying on that Trench team, so maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh. But as a Sith, he's kind of underwhelming on a Separatist team. Yes, he's annoying in counters, but you can't really put him on a General Grievous team like some of these others, and yeah, I don't know. Probably a little harsh on him, honestly. Next up, we have Droideka. I'm putting him towards the high end of the B tier, and this is mainly due to his TW Omicron. It's one of the few I have, and outside of TW, he is expendable. But in TW, he makes the team way, way better. I took a team that was falling out of favor and made it a staple for close to end game and not super competitive territorial war accounts. I don't know if the Maws and Cause of the world use General Grievous that much in TW. But the Droid Omicron is really strong, can bring the whole team back if you kill him with Mark. The damage immunity is immediate and undispellable, so he is quite a force to be reckoned with in TB. And in Grand Arena and stuff, you can make uses for him. Like, he has damage immunity, which is pretty useful if you can be creative with it. Next up, we got General Grievous, and he is coming in at the S tier, ahead of Trench. Just a great leader. I mean, he's great with fleets. The Malevolence is one of the top 6 fleets in the game. Pretty annoying on defense, pretty flexible on offense if you use it right. And just his team, he can be Galactic Legend sometimes. So he's a clear choice for S tier. I would say he's probably head and shoulders above Trench in a lot of ways. But in a lot of ways, people are less scared to see his team on defense than a Trench team. So they have different strengths. But General Grievous, definitely S tier for me. Unavoidable attacks. Stacks his offense through his health really high. Just a really great character overall and great fleet commander. Next up, we got Geobrood Alpha, and he's top of the A tier. Just a really strong plug-and-play character. Like, the Geonosians aren't as good in endgame as they used to be, but in early game, they are fantastic and a favorite of the community. And with good reason. They're a really fun team, really hard to beat if you don't have the right stuff. Swarm attacks are always annoying. He's basically a double character, and that gives him, even if you don't use a Geonosian team at the end game, you can usually find some use for Geonosian Brood Alpha just as an expendable tank that you can just keep bringing back because he doesn't count as a real character. So he's pretty awesome. Now that we're in the G's, we have Geonosian Soldier, and he is C tier for me, lower. I mean, what helps him get out of like D tier is his ship, but he's pretty flimsy. His damage isn't that impressive. He does have tenacity down on his basic, which is nice, and he's part of charging up Spy for a big hit on that Geonosian team. But even his ship is the last one you call in. Like, Spy takes the cake in every category. Who is our next character? Still just low B tier, just because Geonosians as a whole don't see as much use anymore as the General Grievous team. Though he is a Spy, she, I don't know. They're a really important component of that team, and just stacks their damage up really high. Great for cleaning up a raid team. And the ship is really good. I don't know. Maybe I should have given Spy a little bit higher, but B tier, like, this group is pretty close together. So hopefully I'm not disrespecting Spy there, but B tier for Spy. Got 6 more characters to look at, starting with Magnagard. He might be the absolute bottom of the Separatist faction. I mean, he's a decent tank on the General Grievous team, but that's his only role. That's the only place he really has in the game. And I mean, he's kind of annoying. I mean, you kill him and he comes back a little bit, and then General Grievous gets his bonus turn. He stealths the whole team, which helps him get off the ground, but just not a really flexible character, so can't give him too much. Moving on to Jango Fett, who is A tier, one of the, I'll just spoil it, only 2 A tier characters I have in the Separatist faction. He works fantastic as a Separatist. His damage is crazy. Starting with damage immunity is really annoying and used to be the bane of my existence sometimes when I would just try to use a CLS team to take out Newt. And Jango was there, and he stayed in damage immunity forever. It's not just 1 turn, it's 2 turns. So he's crazy damage, prevents revives, I love him. I mean, he's also a bounty hunter leader. He's just great. I don't use him as much anymore because I don't really make use of the Trench team, but I just love when I get a chance to use Jango. Really valuable in TB on Dathomir as well, so he's a great character. Next up, we got Newt Gunray, and I put him at the top of the B tier. Maybe it's too much, but I like him on a Grievous team. He can counter Qui-Gon Jinn in 3v3 pretty well. But just the revive coming back all the time, extortion is a pretty fun mechanic. Really juices up the Trench team as well. So even under Trench, he's kind of like a mini leader there. Because it's unique is a pretty strong part of what he does. You can call him mass assist, increase cooldowns. A lot of good stuff from Newt. And third to last, we got Poggle the Lesser. Put him in the middle of B tier, and that's mainly because of the Omicron. I know it's a super popular Omicron, especially for early game players. I don't have it myself, and people are like, you don't have that, you need that. But it makes it really strong. It doesn't work against GLs anymore, but when it came out and it was working against GLs, you could just rip like a JML team to shreds, and that is pretty impressive. Outside of TW, he's kind of the weak link on a GBA team. The best thing about him is his ability block and his cleanse. And without GBA, if he's with like non-Geonosians, he gives a good offense boost, but that's hardly ever used. And he's the only Geonosian that doesn't have a ship, so except for GBA, but GBA is awesome anyway. The last Geonosian we have is Sunfac, putting him higher C tier, mainly because of his ship. He's a solid tank in land game, has blind, gives that a lot of buffs. which helps out Spy too. But his ship is a pretty nice tank, irresistible stun, forcing the taunt constantly, really annoying to deal with, so it is a valuable asset to that Malevolence fleet. And last, but absolutely not least, is Wat Tambor. That is our best Separatist. Everyone can see it coming a mile away. He's the most used, doesn't need to be with Separatists, but he really does juice up that trench team. Without him, that is a bad team, pretty much. Yeah, Wat gives out his techs. I think the tank tech, I've said it many times, I think that's the most valuable now. But the med pack tech is pretty useful. I use him a lot in Conquest, use him a lot in Galactic Challenges sometimes. This is the Turtle Emperor constantly. He's someone that you always use. A long time considered one of the best characters in the game. I don't know if I go that far anymore. I think he's like a top 15. Well, he's like top 15, top 20 for me. And the weapon tech, it's not even weapon tech anymore. It's just a turn meter tech. Revive prevention. He's just pretty solid overall. Really helps juice up the trench team with all the extra buffs he gives out, the healing every time, dots, and he has a pretty nice trick in Galactic Challenges where you can get dots on the whole enemy team and proc them all at once with his special. So he's fantastic. I don't think I'd get any arguments with him being the best character in the Separatist faction. And that is it. That is the whole faction. There are 16 characters right now in game. I think they need a rework or a boost. I thought Trench was going to be that boost, but not too much. So let me know what you think. What do you think I got wrong in this tier list? Who should be lower? Who should be higher? And I don't have it, like, it's still it's a small faction, but it's still decently strong. I don't think any count as D or F. If anything, maybe Soldier could fall into D, but his ship kind of saves him there. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like, sub, all that stuff. I hope you enjoyed this, and see you later.